Important. And I leave you with these closing words. Love is the strength of the land. Love is the courage of the heart. Love is the guidance of visions. And love is the future for all our children. All our children. All our children. Best of luck to all the candidates. Just know, no matter what, we will walk together, we will work together, and this country will remain the country that it is for all our children today and tomorrow. And my friends, ayong wamazin, nigawabmin, gizagiyin. I love you all. Take good care. Best of luck.
Okay, that is Claudette Commanda giving land acknowledgement here. Algonquin Anishinaabe elder from Kitikintzipi Anishinaabe First Nation. She's often at these kinds of events because she is based near Ottawa, so she did that. We are now going to hear the anthem, the singing of O Canada, which, because of the time we are in, is likely to be a loud affair inside this room. And then, after O Canada, we will hear from Justin Trudeau himself. So obviously we will not talk over this anthem. We'll let you enjoy it. You might need it yourself today. Let's listen now.
Sing along with me. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command, car ton bras sait porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for
Miss McLeod, singer and songwriter here from Ottawa, singing O Canada. You're going to get a strong response to that anthem anytime, but particularly right now. The next portion of this will be about Justin Trudeau and his legacy. We gave you some of our take about that. Then he will be introduced and will give a speech of his own that will be partly to rally the troops, certainly, but also partly sending a message to the nation in what is likely going to be his last speech as the Prime Minister of Canada. I don't think we're going to take this whole video because we talked a little bit already about the legacy, but Aaron, maybe I'll just get you to weigh in on what we heard there from Mark Carney in terms of his speech and whether he's hitting the right tone already.
I mean, as our partisan friends could probably concur, I think every politician who has ever run in an election campaign has said this is the most important election we've ever had. I think, though, the distinction in this case may be that it actually kind of feels that way.
Yeah.
You know, he started off by saying, "Are you ready?" I think that is ultimately the question for him. He's done very well to win this leadership. In a lot of ways, this is a long time coming. Going back to 2012 when people first started, speculating about his political future, I think he has, passed a significant test to start, piling up the endorsements. potentially winning this the way we think he probably is going to. But it's really hard to know how a candidate is going to do once they get into an election campaign.
Okay, let's dip into a little bit of this video, if we can, just to hear the way the Liberal Party is paying tribute to Prime Minister Trudeau.
Dawn, above all, let us seize the promise of a brand new day.
Merci, mes amis. Thank you, my friends.
Liberals, please welcome Ella Grace Trudeau. Amis libéraux,
All right, this is the daughter of Justin Trudeau. She is, I believe, 16 years old, Ella Grace, who's going to come out and introduce her dad. When I talk to Liberals about who could be the next politician in the Trudeau family, this is who I am pointed to, Ella Grace. So let's see how she introduces her dad right now.
Hi, everyone. I've come here to talk to you about your Prime Minister, your leader, but to me, it's just Dad. Je crois qu'on sait tous que
I think we all know that being a Prime Minister is not the easiest job in the world. Long days of work, stress,
But I
media
can tell you,
attention.
it's not that easy to be the kid of a Prime Minister either. I've been trying hard to live the life of a normal teenager, but I think you can imagine it's not that simple of a task. La sécurité, les règles,
Security, rules, drama
m'ont empêché de me sentir
have all
vraiment
stopped
libre
me
ces dernières
feeling free over the
années.
past
Le
few
nombre de fois où
years.
les gens m'ont donné des nouvelles
The
de
number
lui, comme si c'était
of
pas de mon père
times
qui parlait.
who spoke to me about him
J'ai
as
dû
if he
choisir
wasn't
mes
my
amis avec
father.
soin et parfois douter l'intégrité de certaines personnes.
So that led me to doubt the integrity of some people.
I've had some great conversations with my dad about the difficult situations I've lived through, and he never failed to make me feel better. He listened, and more than that, I knew he heard me, he understood me, because he lived through all that. The only difference is that back then there was no social media. Imagine constantly seeing your dad or even news about him as you scroll through your feed. I gotta say, I'm looking forward to seeing more of him at home and less of him online. But I would never trade the last few years for anything. Dad, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud to have seen you fight for our country, for what you believe in, for what we in this room believe in. Fier de t'avoir vu. Fier de t'avoir vu te
Proud to
battre
have seen you
pour ceux qui sont
fight
dans le besoin.
for those in need.
I'm extremely grateful to have lived these experiences and grateful to those around me who have made it even just a little bit easier. Je suis tellement chanceuse d'avoir pu vivre autant
I'm so
d'expériences
lucky
incroyables,
to have been
de
able to
rencontrer
experience so
autant de
much,
personnes
to meet so many extraordinary
extraordinaires, de voir
people,
autant de beaux endroits et
to
de
see
belles
so
choses.
many beautiful things and
I will never
places.
forget the memories I've made, it be at Harrington Lake, on official trips, or even just at home. And I'm really looking forward to making some new memories of a different kind. My brothers and I have shared our dad with you for the past 12 years. Now we're taking him back. But before we do, I guess you can have him one last time. Please welcome your Prime Minister, my dad, Justin Trudeau.
Okay, that was Ella Grace Trudeau, very put together 16-year-old. I would not have been able to give that kind of speech at that age. And here's Justin Trudeau on what is undoubtedly an emotional moment for him. We will listen in and talk about it.
Mes amis, bonsoir tout le monde. Hello, my friends.
You know, as I look out across this room, I have just one question. How's the Liberal Party doing tonight?
Ella Grace, I know that these last few years haven't been easy for Sav. Hey, Adrian, yourself. Thank you for having been so patient with me, even when I was stressed, when I was traveling too much, when I couldn't think about anything other than work. But please know that in the most difficult times, you inspired me. You gave me courage. You reminded me that I should focus on what was really important and not what was just urgent. Being Prime Minister of this country has been the honor of my life, but I'm so looking forward to redevoting myself to my most important role, that of father. I'm proud of the three of you, and I love you above all.
Now, sit down. Now, I can imagine that you're all expecting me to stand up and talk about all that we've accomplished together. And don't get me wrong, I am damn proud of what we've done over these past 10 years for the middle class and people working hard to join it. But tonight is about our future as a party, as a country. Now, I know that we as Liberals, as a government, often get criticized by our friends for not taking a victory lap after we get something big done. We do something really big, and then we move on right away to the next challenge. Because as progressives, as Liberals, we know there is always more to do. So it is important to take the time to reflect on and share the big successes. But not tonight. Not tonight, because when Liberals gather, we're always focused on just one thing: the work that still needs to be done to build a country that stays worthy of all Canadians. And simply put, that's the work of a lifetime for each and every one of us. It's very simple. Liberals are dedicated to making this country even better, not because we think it's broken, but because we have an opportunity and therefore a responsibility to ensure that Canada stays the best country on earth. Now, these past 10 years, have been challenging. Crisis after crisis has been thrown at Canadians. But through every crisis, Canadians have shown who they are. We've pulled together. We've stood up for each other, and every single time, we've emerged even stronger. And now, as Canadians face from our neighbor an existential challenge, an economic crisis, Canadians are showing exactly what we are made of. Canadians are showing what it is that makes us Canadians. Not by defining ourselves by who we're not, but by proudly embracing who we are. We're a country that knows that standing up for everyone's fundamental rights is the only way to protect our freedom. We're a country that believes no one should be left behind and that everyone should have a real and fair shot at success. We're a country that refuses to accept the false choice between a strong economy and a healthy environment. We're a country that embraces reconciliation and Indigenous peoples as true partners because it is the only path to a shared, prosperous future.
We are a country that promotes its culture and protects its heritage. We're a country that breathes life into the French language and is heard across the world. We're a country that celebrates its diversity and draws strength from its differences.
We're a country that celebrates the right of each and every person to be who they want to be, to pray as they pray, and love whom they love. We're a country that will always defend a woman's right to choose. And we're a country that will be diplomatic when we can, but fight when we must, elbows up. But you here in this room, and our fellow Liberals watching across the country, you know all about fighting with grit, with determination, when the going gets tough. You remember where we were 15 years ago with just 35 seats in the House. You remember our ups and downs and all those times that people counted us out, all the times they said our party was on its last breath. Like all Canadians, it's when you try to count us out that we Liberals show our true mettle.
You showed this in 2015, 2019, and again in 2021. You mobilized. You knocked on doors. You did it in the rain, in a heat wave, in the freezing cold. You did it in the middle of a pandemic, wearing a mask. You fought for your country, and you changed it for the better. You know, a party is more than just a name, a logo, a leader. It's all about you. You who carry the hopes of Canadians day in, day out. A country is more than a flag and a territory. It's a vision which is built gradually, day after day, between friends and neighbours. And I'd like to thank all those who have been there to build this vision together. I'm thinking here about my first volunteers 18 years ago, those who have been there since the start. Rennes, Louis-Alexandre, Stavroula, and others, so many others. I'm thinking about the grocery store parking lot in Papineau, when we talk to people to rally them to our cause, to our movement.
Tonight I'm also thinking of two friends in particular who've been there with me and for me every step of the way for close to 20 years. The extraordinary Adam Scotty, and the unstoppable Katie Telford. Now, as I look at all of you in this room, no speech could be enough to thank you all as much as I'd like to, as much as you should be. I can't even offer you a well-deserved break because, once again, we need you. Your country needs you maybe more than ever. And I have no doubt that you will answer the call because you've done it before. Liberals will meet this moment. And make no mistake, this is a nation-defining moment. Democracy is not a given. Freedom is not a given. Even Canada is not a given. None of those happen by accident. None of them will continue without effort. It takes courage. It takes sacrifice. It takes hope and hard work. "60 years ago, standing atop Parliament Hill, Prime Minister Lester B. Pearson first raised our beautiful maple leaf into the Canadian sky. It was much debated at the time, but Pearson knew well what we all know now, that our flag would serve as a unifying symbol that would define the next chapters in our national story. 60 years later, there are still so many more chapters to write. And I can tell you, the world is looking to see what Canadians will do. So let us not dwell on all the great things we've achieved over the past 10 years. Let us aspire instead to achieve even more over the next 10 years and the decades to come. Let us remain steadfast, defiant, and united. And let us not just think about our party, let us prove our love of country. As your leader, as your Prime Minister, I have done my level best each and every single day to help build a country that stays worthy of all Canadians. I've done it for Xavier, for Ella Grace and Hadrian. And I've done it for your kids too. And I've done it with you. And although you'll always find me alongside you, cheering along, their future and your future is now in your hands. Merci, mes amis. Merci pour tout.
Justin Trudeau gives as Prime Minister of Canada after more than 9 years in the job. And he's followed by another Prime Minister, a former Prime Minister, Jean Chrétien. We'll talk more about Trudeau's speech in just a moment, but we will listen to Jean Chrétien here also to rally the troops.
Monsieur le Premier ministre Trudeau,
Prime Minister Trudeau,
candidats et candidates,
candidates,
Monsieur le Président du parti,
President of the party,
ministres et députés,
ministers and MPs,
chers compatriotes, bonsoir.
good evening.
C'est une occasion exceptionnelle
This is
d'être
an
avec vous
exceptional
ce soir.
opportunity for me to be here this evening.
Il s'agit de ma 9e
This is my,
convention du Parti
ninth
libéral à laquelle
ninth
je
liberal
participe.
convention that I participated in.
Et c'est la 7e fois
And it's the 7th time
que je m'avance au podium.
that I've spoken at the podium.
Je n'aurais jamais cru
I
que
would
je
have never
pourrais le
thought
faire
that I could
à
do it
l'âge de 91 ans.
at 91.
Et toujours prêt à me battre.
I'm still ready to fight. I have fight in me yet.
It's great to see so many young people in the room today. It reminds me of my first Liberal convention when I was the president of the Young Liberals at Laval University. In 1958, when Lester Pearson was elected Liberal leader. In 1958, not many of you were born. And he then became a very good prime minister. I have kept coming to Liberal Convention for 68 years. I have kept coming back to Liberal Convention because of what the Liberal Party stands for. I have kept coming back because of what the Liberal Party has delivered to make the lives of Canadians better. And I am here today because it is the Liberal Party that can best deliver better lives for Canadians in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. It is the Liberal Party that has given Canadians the Canadian Pension Plan and Medicare, the Charter of Rights and Freedom, the 2 official languages that put the Indigenous rights into the Canadian Constitution, brought in tough gun control laws, affirmative action. We have always supported women's right to choose. We are the party who led the way to permit the second party in the country in the world to permit same-sex marriage. The party is the party of diversity, equality, tolerance, openness, and inclusiveness. We Liberals call it the very essence of Canada. And it is the Liberal Party that gave us the red maple leaf flag 60 years ago, which flew so proudly in homes across the country on the 14th of February to demonstrate our patriotism and love for Canada. I want to say a special thank you to former Prime Ministers Joe Clark, Harper, Martin, Campbell for coming together with me to rally Canadians across the land to show the Canadian flag with pride, with a lot of pride. But tonight, I want to pay tribute to Justin Trudeau. I want to pay tribute to him for taking the Liberal Party from third place to government and three successive election victories. I want to pay tribute to what he and his team have accomplished. Canadian Child Benefit, to reduce the poverty for the children in Canada. The $10 child care that opened the labor market to so many women. For the dental plan for low-income Canadians. For all the work they've done on the environment. Ladies and gentlemen, these are liberal policies. And let's talk about the economic reality of the moment now. Because Canada has done well. This, I'm telling you, as I've said so many times, Canada is not broken. Despite the attacks by the critics, Canada has the lowest deficit per capita in the G7. More than 5 times lower than in the United States. For the lowest debt per capita in the G7. And in fact, the payment on the interest of the debt today is only 11% for each dollar of tax we pay, and compared to what we got when we formed the government in 1993, we were obliged to pay 35 cents in every tax dollar. That was a little problem the Tories left to me. And we balanced the books. We took that mess from the Tories and we balanced the books. And we had 10 years of surplus. And the Tories came back to power and we went back in debt. Now inflation is 1.9% in Canada. It's 3.2% and increasing south of the border. You know, I spend my life talking about job creation. Now the problem, we're looking for manpower. It's a difficult problem, but it's better than the reverse. You know, I want to pay tribute to the government, to Mr. Trudeau, and to all the provincial governments for the fact that they have been with the municipalities to put together the best program on the pandemic that we face, better than any other country in the world. Our debt rate was less than half of the United States. Today, as a party, we're choosing a new leader. A leader who will assume the mantle of Laurier and King, Saint Laurent and Pearson, Trudeau father, Trudeau the son, who has with him a very beautiful daughter. You know, I'm old enough to say that. and myself. And that is very important. I want to take this moment to say how impressed I am by the quality of the candidates whose names are on the ballot tonight. It makes me very, very proud to be a liberal. Et maintenant, parlons
And now,
de l'éléphant dans la
let's
pièce.
talk about the elephant in the room.
La longue et fructueuse amitié
The
canado-américaine,
long and fruitful
construite au fil
friendship with the
de
Americans,
multiples décennies,
built over
se transforme
decades,
sous nos yeux
which
et à
is
une grande
falling
vitesse
apart before
à
our
quelque
eyes
chose d'autre
and is becoming
qui reste encore difficile à
something
nommer.
which is difficult to name.
Le respect mutuel,
Mutual respect,
la confiance,
trust,
l'esprit de coopération réciproque,
reciprocal
l'amitié,
cooperation,
qui ont
friendship,
longtemps caractérisé nos
which have
relations,
long
sont
characterized
en
our
train de faire
relationship,
place à la méfiance.
are now giving way to wariness
De plus en plus
and
ouverte
more and more open hostility from the Trump administration towards our country.
du jamais vu qui confond de plus en plus
This is something we've
non
never
seulement
seen,
les Canadiens,
but
mais certainement
this is
la
something that
majorité
Canadians
des
don't
Américains
understand, and I think the majority of
Sans
Americans
même
don't understand it either,
parler du reste
without
de la planète.
mentioning the rest of the planet.
Pourquoi?
Why?
Disons que pendant
Well,
que chercheurs universitaires,
Why
historiens, journalistes,
historians,
et autres
journalists,
spécialistes
and
de la
university
politique internationale
researchers and experts
tentent
in
de trouver un
international
sens
politics
qui
are trying to make
n'en a
sense
pas.
of something
Au
that doesn't
Canada,
make
nous nous
sense.
serrons les
Well,
coudes
in Canada, our elbows are up.
pour affronter
We're working together
aussi unis
to unite
qu'il est possible de l'être ce qui menace
to deal with this
notre
threat,
économie
the threat to our
et
economy
notre souveraineté.
and our sovereignty.
Autrement dit, notre existence.
In
même.
other words, our very existence as a country.
En début de la semaine, les menaces et hausses
At
de
the beginning
tarifs
of the
douaniers
week,
est devenue une réalité
Tariffs became a
qui
reality,
ne fera que des perdants
and there will only
si
be
seul
losers
l'argent est la mesure.
if you measure it
Mais pour
in
nous,
financial
Canadiens,
terms alone. But for Canadians,
Il est infiniment plus
it's more than that.
que l'argent dans cet enjeu.
It's more than money that's at stake here.
Nous aimons notre pays
We love our
et notre
country
indépendance.
and our independence.
Nous aimons ce que nous
We
sommes,
love who we are
car nous sommes uniques.
because we're unique in the world.
And I want to pay tribute to the Trudeau government and all the premiers for the way they have led Canada in the last few weeks in confronting the menace imposed on us. With tariffs completely unjustified. Governments have absolutely right in retaliating as they have, and I congratulate all of them. If it is necessary, the governments altogether can consider going further, anything the Americans where it really hurts, by imposing an export tax on oil, gas, potash, steel, aluminum, and electricity. And we'll use that money to build infrastructure that are needed in Canada. For example, to build a pipeline for natural gas from Alberta to Quebec. Alberta, the family of my mother, and Quebec of my father. So, you know, I think that if we do that, that will keep the steel workers working in Canada for a long time. And I could go on, but I'm limited in time. So, the world has lived for 80 years with a rule-based order that has brought us peace and prosperity. It has enabled the United States to be the strongest, the most powerful country in the world. It has allowed all of us to sleep well every night. And now, Donald Trump has decided to do it all out the window. We are going to be living very difficult time, but I'm very confident that the next Prime Minister will work with the premiers, the leaders of all the political parties in the House of Commons, and allies around the world to stand together to meet the challenges that Mr. Trump is creating for the whole world. And perhaps, speaking of the president, it is time for a little history lesson for him. Probably does not realize that in 1776, Benjamin Franklin spent a year in Montreal trying to convince the people to join the American Revolution. And he was told by the Francophone, non merci. And they were right. Look what happened to the French language in Louisiana. The Loyalists left the USA to come back to Upper Canada and the Atlantic, and the Francophone and Lower Canada, together they built our independent country. During the War of 1812, Americans came to what is now Canada on a mission of conquest. They were defeated by Colonel de Salaberry in what is now Quebec, and by leaders like the great Indigenous chief Tecumseh in what is now Ontario. And I don't know, apparently some burned the White House at that time. But I'm too old to do it. No, it's a joke. But, ladies and gentlemen, we have been friend and good neighbor with our southern neighbors. But we must stand up for ourselves. Historically, despite our friendship, we have had problems, but we always found a way to solve them. We have worked with and collaborated with the United States in the past, and I'm telling you, we will do so in the future. We are good neighbors and friends. We are good neighbors and friends, but we are proud and independent country. But sometimes one must stand up for Canada. We must always be vigilant. And I did so as minister and as prime minister. Way back in 1968, when the Americans sent a ship, the Manhattan, with no Canadian flag through our Northern Passage, they wanted to prove that the passage was international water. As Minister of Northern Affairs, I flew to Pond Inlet at the northern extremity of Baffinland to confront them. I was on the Louis Saint-Laurent icebreaker. I called the captain. I said I will be there in an hour. And it's better to have the Canadian flag at the mast. I took... When I arrived, there was the Canadian flag at the mast. And I had a big smile. You know, we had other problems of the same nature. You remember Newfoundland, the so-called fish war, when we arrested the Estée? when my friend Tobin made a great show at the UN with the illegal nets. And we were successful. They changed the international laws after that because there was a problem that needed to be fixed. And I'm quite proud of it, and it was quite a time. Yeah. I was traveling in the West. I came back. It was Holy Week. So it was a Thursday, Holy Week. So my wife said, we'll have a good rest for the weekend. And I said, perhaps not, because I'm declaring war to Spain. She did not sleep. But, you know, we had another problem on the West Coast. You know, we have Vancouver Island, the mainland, and Canadian waters. And the fishermen from Oregon and Washington State were going to Alaska, but they were not respecting our water. So we threatened them to block the passage on Canadian water and force them to go in the high seas. It was a very difficult problem. The senator of Alaska said it was almost a question of war. So I discussed that, and I talked with my friend Bill Clinton, and he said, it's out of Canada, there's not much I can do. I said, if you cannot do something, I will do something. And they were forced to respect our laws. Some were taken to courts, and after that, the problem was solved because we stood for us strongly. But for 8 years, I was a colleague of Bill Clinton, and he would always say that Canada was his best ally, and that I was a very good friend, and we still are very good friends. But we worked together, and we found solutions together. And it's what happened in the future, too. We always been good neighbors with anybody. So I was proud, too, when I was Prime Minister, and I had to say no to the participation in the American invasion of Iraq. That decision told the United States and the world that Canada is a proud, independent country. Of course, the business community was very nervous. They were afraid of retaliation. So I told them, okay, give me the list of all the goods and all the services that the Americans are buying from us because they like us. I've not received the list yet. So, you know, we will work in collaboration with them. But, you know, they have to understand, and everybody understand, that we are a very proud country. And for me, I can tell you that sometimes I can say this, from one old guy to another old guy. Stop this nonsense. Canada will never join the United States. I can tell you that my parents were not millionaires from New York. They were workers from Shawinigan. But my mother taught us good manners. She would have been ashamed of me if I had treated anyone the way that the president treated my prime minister and the president in Ukraine in the last few weeks. The reason we don't want to become American is because our values as Canadians. We are proud Canadians, and yes, we owe a debt of recognition to Mr. Trump. He has united us as never before. So I want to say thank you to him. And I think I will propose him for the Order of Canada. I'm just kidding. Mesdames et messieurs, quand j'étais Premier ministre et que j'allais partout dans le monde,
I would travel across the world. I went to the UN, to the G7, to NATO, to the Commonwealth, to the Francophonie, and to all sorts of international meetings on the 5 continents. When I came back to Canada, each time I would say that the job of being Prime Minister is perhaps the easiest of any country in the world. Canada is the country that works the best, I think. Much better than any other country in the world.
And it's why there are millions and millions of human beings from all over the world who would like to come and become Canadian citizens. There was a survey not long ago. They were asking the people, where would you want to go if you had to start again your life? And Canada was number 1. Why? Is because Canada is the land of freedom. Canada is the land of opportunity, the land of generosity, the land of tolerance, the land of stability, the land of rule of law. It is our land that is the envy of the world. Canada will continue to rise through north strong and free. Nobody will starve us into submission because Canada is and will remain the best country in the world. Vive le Canada!
And there is 91-year-old Jean Chrétien, still full of energy, delivering a speech to rally the Liberal Party and the country, telling Donald Trump directly to stop this nonsense. He was also out, of course, to pay tribute to Prime Minister Trudeau and talk about the way he had defended the nation against Donald Trump, and also throughout COVID. He was thanking Trudeau for the premiers and the premiers for the way they handled things through the pandemic. This is the president of the Liberal Party who's going to come out and give a bit of a speech now before announcing the winner, the winner of this race. But I want to talk a little bit more about Justin Trudeau's speech, and we'll of course not miss the moment when the winner is announced. David, what did you make of what Justin Trudeau had to say? He was emotional for sure, following that quite incredible speech by his 16-year-old daughter, Ella Grace. What did you make of what he had to say?
Well, I think Mark Carney and Christian Freeland and everyone else is quite lucky that Ella Grace Trudeau isn't running in this particular race, because that was a remarkably composed 16-year-old young woman paying tribute to her father there, and I think every parent wants their kid to say great things about them with affection and with pride. The Prime Minister, in what is probably his final speech to a national stage before this all goes, he continued what has really been the note of the day, Rosie, that just how much patriotism is infusing this in a way you don't normally see at a Liberal political convention. I don't say that to say they're not patriotic, but the symbols of the flag, the anthem, the standing up against the United States, and there is this continuum there of reminding them of all the important things that they have done to get to this point, but then a call to arms for the things that are going to be happening in the next little while. Because as he said to them, we have done so much and we've worked so hard, I wish I could give you a break. But we need you, because a nod that the minute today ends, the party, the government, the country very quickly moves into election mode, because probably, we're voting as a country most likely by the end of April, maybe into early May, which means there's not a lot of time for the transition and everything to happen. But it was interesting to hear him bring back, to speak about the moment, to speak about the future, and then punctuate his speech with the old callbacks like the middle class and those working hard to join it, which is something Cameron can probably tell you they wrote into everything every day, and we heard every day, but that we haven't heard in a while.
Yeah.
And he brought it back there today.
Yeah. Do you want to say something about that? Because there was some language there, hope and hard work, the things that had been, pounded into my brain following him through a campaign, and that was obviously intentional, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really important moment for obviously the Liberal Party, but for Canada too. Like him or not, this is the end of an extremely consequential era in Canadian leadership, where the Prime Minister, for external reasons, will be remembered for how he handled major crises, but also for decisions he made, the vision he had, and reminding us today of some of these important issues that he brought forward, and I think wants to tell everyone in this room, don't abandon these things. Don't abandon the fight against climate change just because it's become controversial. Don't abandon the path to reconciliation because the Conservatives never talk about it. Don't abandon the fight against poverty because we've made a lot of progress and we need to. So I think there was a lot of really, there was some hearkening back to things that he believed in and fought for, a reminder to Liberals to keep fighting for them, but most importantly, the context we're in today is so different, and that will define the path forward for the next few weeks.
This is Sachet Merritt, the president of the Liberal Party, speaking now. He is the one who's going to give the name of the leader, and of course we won't miss that moment either. Aaron, I did want to bring you in because there is, I don't doubt the truth behind what everyone is saying tonight, but there is also an attempt to wrap the Liberal Party in the Canadian flag, to use the moment and the Liberal Party colours and the flag itself to try and help them politically in this moment.
Yeah, I mean, understandably. I mean, I think if you go back 2 months, or even to the day, I guess it has been 2 months now that he resigned, I don't know that I would have expected Justin Trudeau to speak at this convention, given where his standing was. And you contrast that with his father, when his father resigned. A whole night of the Liberal convention was given over to a tribute to Pierre Trudeau. There were singers, and it was a whole thing. And I think the fact that he was here today is an indication of where the mood has shifted. And I think that goes to your point about the patriotism and how that has kind of taken over everything. And you heard, I was kind of waiting to see whether Justin Trudeau would reference his father, and instead he referenced Lester B. Pearson and the flag, which, as he pointed out, was a Liberal government initiative at the time and was controversial. And I think, that was both a play to sort of the moment, the patriotism, but also, as he said, it was controversial at the time and it has grown well. I think that is a bit of projection by the Prime Minister in terms of thinking about maybe how he's going to look 50 years from now.
Okay, let's, I just want to keep an ear here to Sachet Merritt, because it would be a pity to be here for hours and then miss the actual winner of the race. We do know that more than 150,000 people managed to vote, although Liberal Party supporters are 400,000. And we do have some updated information from the Carney campaign saying that as of this morning, the campaign has raised more than $5 million, which isn't anywhere near what the Conservative Party has, but is a whole lot of money in a short period of time for this party, because they had not been doing well in terms of fundraising. So that is probably good news to the Liberal Party, regardless of who wins. Let's listen a little bit to the president, Sachet Merritt.
Many of them are with us tonight. Some of you, and I met a few of you, for the very first time. Et le momentum positif n'arrête pas ici. And the positive momentum doesn't stop here. We just recently announced our best ever Q1 for grassroots fundraising in the history of the party. And we still have another 21 days to go. My friends, together we are ready for the year ahead, but we need each and every one of you. 2025, as we all know, is an election year, and we all need to be ready. We need to knock on doors, make those calls, and chip in where we can, because only together will we win the fight for a strong Canada. Who's with me? Now, who's ready? Now it's the moment to announce our new leader. Maintenant, c'est le moment d'annoncer notre nouveau chef ou notre nouvelle chef. To hand me the results, I'm happy to invite on stage Beatrice Keller-Raffoul, who has been serving as the Chief Electoral Officer for the vote and protecting the integrity of the process. Pour me remettre les résultats, j'ai le plaisir d'inviter sur la scène
Now have the pleasure to invite Beatrice Keller-Raffoul, who has been acting as Chief Electoral Officer for the vote and has worked to protect the integrity of the process. Beatrice, over to you.
Thank you. A reminder that the winner must receive more than 50% of the points allocated in a ballot to win. The following are the results of the first ballot with 151,899 votes cast. In fourth place, Frank Baylis with 4,038 votes, resulting in 1,014 allocated points, representing 3% of the vote. In third place, Karina Gould with 4,785 votes, resulting in 1,100 allocated points, representing 3.2% of the vote. In second place, Chrystia Freeland with 11,134 votes, resulting in 2,729 allocated points, representing 8% of the vote. In first place, the next Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, with 131,674 votes, resulting in 29,457 allocated points, representing 85.9% of the vote.
All right, and there you have it. It took one ballot and a landslide victory. Mark Carney is the next Liberal Party leader, the next Prime Minister of Canada, and for now, the Prime Minister designate with an overwhelming win at 85%. That is bigger than the win that Justin Trudeau had in 2013 and is beyond decisive. Let's put it that way. There he is with his wife, Diana, celebrating. The Liberal Party has a new leader to take them into the next election. This is the first ever Prime Minister designate who has never held elected office. He has never been elected. He is untested politically, with the exception of these past 2 months. But he has sold his vision to the Liberal Party of Canada, and they are buying what he's selling. David Cochrane.
That is a remarkable number in this race. I mean, the expectation was a first ballot victory for Mark Carney, but people were talking, is he going to get 58? Is he going to get 65%? Maybe 70 if everything breaks his own way. But to get 85.9%, and to see Chrystia Freeland, who is the Deputy Prime Minister, Finance Minister in this government, at just 8%, it just shows you how decisive and how lopsided this whole thing was, really from the beginning. It has seemed inevitable. He at times in this race seemed invincible, and certainly the results that we're seeing today show that. I would say, Rosie, this really limits the chances of him ever becoming the finance minister of Canada, but within days, he will be the next prime minister of this country.
This is certainly a bigger win than Justin Trudeau in 2013, but it is also a bigger win than Pierre Poilievre in his leadership race, which was also viewed as a massive, decisive victory. This is one of Mark Carney's children who's going to introduce him here. And we won't want to miss, of course, the first speech that Mark Carney will give as Liberal leader of Canada.
I'm going to try and deliver this speech with as much grace and poise as Ella Grace. I, too, am introducing my father tonight because I want Canadians to understand what kind of a man he is. And who is better qualified to speak on his character than his daughter? My father is, to his core, a man of commitment. I don't just mean that in a general sense. He is unflinchingly dedicated to what matters, focused and principled, funny and kind. Canadians care about actions, and my father is a man of action, a man who has traveled the length of Canada to hear what Canadians want from their leaders, what they want for their future. He's up early to read his papers and stays up late preparing for the next day. He has taught me the importance of always putting in the work. But you can work hard all you want. If you don't have a solid foundation, there's nothing to build on. And that's what I really want to share with you tonight, the foundation that makes my father who he is. He is unwaveringly supportive of the things he cares about. Every year for our birthdays, he burned us CDs, and somehow they were good. Sometimes now, when we don't know what to get him, we make him a playlist. He cheered me on in the freezing cold at my cross-country races. He sat for hours to help me with my math homework, persevering until I understood. I can tell you that I appreciate this more in hindsight than I did at the time. In all seriousness, my dad invests in what matters. He expects nothing to come without hard work, and he is always ready to work hard. The bottom line is, however hard things may seem, he shows up and never lets you down. He has and always will show up for you, for Canadians, and for Canada, because he cares about this great country. Now, my father, your new Liberal leader, and the 24th Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney. Merci.
Okay, and that is Cleo Carney, one of Mark Carney's 4 children, introducing him, trying to connect him with Canadians and give Canadians a bit of an idea of who her dad is, because he is not known to many. But look at those numbers, 85.9% win for Mark Carney on the first round.
I think it's clear we should just skip a generation. Alors, bonsoir tout le monde. Wow. This room is strong. This room is Canada strong. Thank you, Cleo. Thank you, Cleo. And to my wife, Diana, our children, Cleo, Tess, Amelia and Sasha. Without your support, I wouldn't be standing here. And like the Prime Minister, without your examples, I wouldn't have a purpose. And without your love, I wouldn't have the strength that I need for what lies ahead. Thank you. Monsieur Chrétien,
you still know how to energize the Liberal Party supporters like no one else can do it. You took courageous and historic decisions. You showed our allies that Canada will always stand up for what is just and fair. You're a source of inspiration for all Canadians across the land.
May I say that you inspired my family to become Liberals, including my father to run as a Liberal candidate in Alberta in the 1980s. Some elections are tougher than others. And you inspired me. You inspired me over the years. And now to have an opportunity to continue your tradition of fiscal responsibility, social justice, and international leadership. Prime Minister Trudeau, my time doesn't permit me to recognize all your accomplishments, so I'll speak at a higher level. You have combined strength and compassion every day as a fighter for Canada. You have led us through some of the hardest challenges that this nation has ever faced. Et en même temps, vous avez transformé
You
le
have
Canada.
transformed Canada. You've transformed it.
En sortant de centaines
You've
de milliers
lifted
d'enfants
hundreds of
de la
thousands of
pauvreté.
kids out of poverty
En faisant vraiment
by
avancer la réconciliation.
moving reconciliation forward
Et en défendant
and
la
by
liberté
defending
et la démocratie
freedom and
toujours
democracy
ici et ailleurs
here
dans le monde.
and across the world.
C'est vrai. Monsieur le Premier ministre, je
Prime
parle
Minister, I
pour
think
tout le
I
monde.
am speaking for everyone here
Remercie.
when I thank you
Pour votre travail
for your
acharné,
hard work,
comme Ella Grace l'a mentionné.
as Ella Grace
Votre
said,
travail acharné,
your hard
votre
work,
leadership,
for your
et pour
leadership
votre service
and for your
à
service
notre grand
to our
pays.
great country.
Je tiens à
I'd
vous
also like to thank
remercier,
you,
chers libéraux,
Liberals, for having awarded
le
me
plus grand
the
honneur
greatest
qui soit,
honor possible,
celui de
which is
servir
to serve
comme votre
as
nouveau
your new
chef.
leader.
Merci.
Thank you.
Et merci aux
I'd like to
dizaines de
thank
milliers de
the
bénévoles à travers
tens
le
of
pays
thousands of
pour votre dévouement à rebâtir
volunteers
notre
across the
parti
country who
et
have
à redonner l'espoir.
devoted themselves to
Canada.
rebuilding our country and to giving back hope to our country.
I pledge to you and to all Canadians that I will follow their example. I will work day and night with one purpose, which is to build a stronger Canada for everyone. But I will need help. I will need a lot of help. And so I'd like to thank Chrétien, Frank, and Karina for your energy and ideas and leadership that you have brought to this campaign. And I would like also to thank those ministers who remained in their posts to serve Canada directly during this time of great peril. And to the incredible group of Liberal MPs that we have, you are the voices for your communities, and you are the conscience of our party. Thank you for your service. Now, to give a sense of that service, I'm going to quote from a message that I and Chrétien and Karina and Frank, the four of us, received from someone called Bob Zettel. Now, Bob, full disclosure, I know the leader of the opposition's into full disclosure, so I'm going to, full disclosure. Full disclosure, just want to get this on the table. Bob goes to my church. Actually, I go to Bob's church because he goes there a lot more frequently than I do. Anyways, point is, Bob wrote to the four candidates, and he said, I quote, "Right now, everyone sees the main threat as the Trump tariffs. But the far greater challenge will be, as it always has been, to foster unity and a sense of the common good. There are those who will seek power by dividing us." We'll get to that later on. And we being the people of Canada, we need you, my fellow candidates, myself, to continue in positions of leadership to promote a united Canada, a commitment to common good and the respect and the rule of law throughout the world. See, I quote Bob because right now all Canadians are being asked to serve in their own ways. We're all being called to stand up for each other and for the Canadian way of life. So let me ask you, who's ready? Who's ready to stand up for Canada with me? 100%. Yes. Yes. Yes, Canada. Yes, Canada. The Liberal Party is united and strong and ready to fight to build an even better country. Now, I feel like everything in my life has helped prepare me for this moment. 2 months ago, I put up my hand to run for leader because I felt we needed big changes, but big changes guided by strong Canadian values. The values I learned at the dinner table from my parents, Bob and Verly, and my 3 siblings, Brenda, Sean, and Brian. Values that I learned at the hockey rinks of Edmonton from my coaches, such as Stormin Norman Lee. He exists. We didn't call him that to his face, by the way, but that was his. My parents were teachers, and they stressed the importance of hard work, of community, and of tolerance. My coaches were dedicated volunteers who taught me the importance of teamwork, ambition, and because it's Canada, humility. Des bonnes valeurs. Des bonnes valeurs.
The right values.
Des valeurs canadiennes.
Canadian values.
Je les ai emportés avec moi à
I took them with me to university, and I kept them close to me when I was called upon to manage crises here in Canada and across the world. These same values have guided me in my work to build strong economies. And today, I will use those values again as we face this most serious crisis in a generation.
Canadians know that new threats demand new ideas and a new plan. They know that new challenges demand new leadership. Canadians want positive leadership that will end division and help us build together. And to respond, my government will put into action our plan to build a stronger economy, to create new trading relationships with reliable trading partners, and to secure our borders. Pour être clair,
Clear here. This will require change, big change. But I know that Canadians are ready. They've told me so across the country. People want change because they're concerned. They're concerned about the cost of living and the housing crisis as well. They're worried for the future of their young, their kids. They're worried about the future of Canada in the face of President Trump's threats and a more divided and dangerous world.
Now, I am a pragmatist above all. So when I see that something's that's not working, I will change it. So my government will immediately eliminate the divisive consumer carbon tax on families and farmers and small and medium-sized businesses. And we will stop the hike in the capital gains tax because we think builders should be incentivized for taking risks and rewarded when they succeed. Canada needs more of this type of change. Change that puts more money in people's pockets. Change that makes our companies more competitive. Change that builds the strongest economy in the G7. Now, there's someone who's trying to do the opposite. There's someone who's trying to weaken our economy. Yeah, Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, as we know, has put, as the Prime Minister just said, unjustified tariffs on what we build, on what we sell, on how we make a living. He's attacking Canadian families, workers, and businesses, and we cannot let him succeed. And we won't. We won't. I am proud of the response of Canadians who are making their voices heard and their wallets felt. I am grateful for how our provinces are stepping up to the fight, because when we are united, we are Canada strong. The Canadian government has rightly retaliated and is rightly retaliating with our own tariffs that will have maximum impact in the United States and minimum impact here in Canada. And my government will keep our tariffs on until the Americans show us respect. And until they can join us in making credible and reliable commitments to free and fair trade. As Chrétien did. Yeah. And in the meantime, we will ensure that all the proceeds from our tariffs will be used to protect our workers. Les Américains veulent nos ressources.
They want our resources, our water, our land, our country even.
Jamais, oui. Pensez-y.
Never. Think about that for a moment.
Ça va détruire
That will destroy our way of life.
The Americans want our resources, our water, our land, our country. Think about it. If they succeeded, they would destroy our way of life. In America, healthcare is a big business. In Canada, it is a right. Thank you. America is a melting pot. Canada is a mosaic. In
the US, differences are not respected or recognized. First Nations aren't recognized, and the French language would never have any rights. The joie de vivre culture and the French language are part of our identity. And we must protect that. We must promote that as well. We'll never give them up for any trade agreement.
Yeah. Look, Canada, America is not Canada. And Canada never, ever will be part of America in any way, shape, or form. Look, we didn't ask for this fight. We didn't ask for this fight. But Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves. So the Americans, they should make no mistake, in trade as in hockey, Canada will win. Aux Américains.
Now, to Americans, I say to you, as in hockey, we will win.
Mais cette victoire,
but that victory won't be easy. We're facing the greatest crisis of our lifetimes. We have to do extraordinary things, and together. We have to build things that we've never imagined we would have to do at a pace we would have never believed possible. And above all, we must place people above money.
Il faut s'unir.
Have to unite to build the strongest, the fairest, and the freest country in the world.
Now, Donald Trump is trying to weaken our economy. But there's someone else who, if he succeeds, will weaken our economy. It's Pierre Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre just doesn't get it. He is the type of lifelong politician, and I've seen this type around the world, a lifelong politician who worships at the altar of the free market despite never having made a payroll himself. And now, in the face of President Trump's threats, Pierre Poilievre still refuses to get his security clearance. At a time when our national security is under threat as it has never been before. At a time of immense economic insecurity, he would undermine the Bank of Canada. Monsieur Poilievre veut fermer Radio Canada.
Has called for the shutting down of CBC at a time when disinformation and foreign interference are in are on the march. He insults our mayors and ignores the First Nations when it's time to build. He intends to put an end to international aid when democracy and human rights are in danger across the world. And he will also allow our planet to burn.
Pierre Poilievre would let our planet burn. This is not leadership. It's ideology. It's ideology that betrays what we as Canadians value, each other. It's an ideology that also represents a fundamental misunderstanding of how the economy works. Now, unlike Pierre Poilievre, I've actually worked in the private sector. I know how the world works, and I know how it can be made to work better for all of us. And that knowledge is especially useful now in the service of Canadians when we must build a new economy and create new trading relationships. Let me tell you something else that we know that Pierre Poilievre doesn't. We know that markets don't have values, people do. And we know as Liberals that it's our job to make markets, to make the economy work for all Canadians. These are the most powerful tool we've ever invented. They can find solutions to our greatest problems. And when the private sector, when the markets are governed well, they deliver great jobs and stronger growth faster than anything. But markets are also indifferent to human suffering, and they are blind to our greatest needs. So when they're not governed well, or not at all, they will deliver enormous wealth for the lucky few and hard times for the rest. And in this crisis, we must help those who are hit hardest by the American tariffs while we build our strength here at home. That's the right thing to do. That's the fair thing to do. That is the Canadian thing to do. That is what makes us strong. So Donald Trump thinks he can weaken us with his plan to divide and conquer. Pierre Poilievre's plan will leave us divided and ready to be conquered. Because a person who worships at the altar of Donald Trump will kneel before him, not stand up to him. Pierre Poilievre's slogans are not solutions. His anger is in action. His division is in strength. Division won't win a trade war. Division won't pay the rent or the mortgage. Division won't bring down the price of groceries. Division won't make Canada strong.
This is where negative politics and division and anger takes us. Half of the U.S. fears the other half. They're wary of each other. We can't allow such a situation to occur here in Canada. Americans are increasingly divided, and this will weaken them. And we will win this fight if we are united and strong. Yes, we might disagree over policy. We might disagree over hockey. You can support the Oilers in Ottawa, That's possible. It's a free country after all. But when it comes to Canada, we're all on the same side. Let's choose to be strong. Canada strong.
Now, I've learned a few things from long experience in crises. And the first is that plan beats no plan. And you need to distinguish what you can change from what you can't. We can't change Donald Trump. Can't change him. Nous devons comprendre ce que
But we have to understand what we can and we must change. We are masters in our own house.
And we can. And because we're masters in our own home, we can control our economic destiny with a plan that puts more money in your pockets. A plan that will ensure your government spends less so Canada can invest more. A plan that builds millions of homes. A plan that makes us an energy superpower in both clean and conventional energy. A plan that creates new trade corridors with reliable partners. A plan that creates one Canadian economy, not 13. Because in Canada, we are stronger when we're united. We can give ourselves far, far more than Donald Trump can ever take away. But it will take extraordinary efforts. It won't be business as usual. We will have to do things we haven't imagined before at speeds we didn't think possible. We will do it. We will do it for the common good so that everyone benefits. You know, I do care about the economy. But it's not because I'm an economist. It's because I care about people. That's why I'm a liberal. That's why we are liberals. On sait.
It's clear that the value of a strong economy starts with the workers who have good, well-paying jobs today and who have better futures for them and for today's youth. We know as liberals that we can't redistribute what we don't have. We also know that we can't be strong abroad if we're weak at home. We also know that we cannot build a better future if we're unable to manage the present.
So, we need a strong economy, but when we're fighting for a strong economy, we're fighting for good Canadian health care for everyone. We are fighting for strong support for our seniors who built this country. We are fighting for child care for young families that they put in place. We are fighting for dental care and pharma care for everyone who needs it. We are fighting for rights. We are fighting for a strong economy so we can create a more sustainable world for our children and grandchildren, and we will deliver. Well, thank you. I know that these are dark days. Dark days brought on by a country we can no longer trust. We are getting over the shock, but let us never forget the lessons. We have to look after ourselves, and we have to look out for each other. We need to pull together in the tough days ahead. And so, to those families watching this evening in Fort Smith, in Edmonton, and across every community in Canada, I promise you this. Together, we can and we will get through this crisis. We can and we will come out stronger than ever. And we will because Canada is built on the strength of its people. From our mines to our ports, from our logging roads to our city streets, we're strongest when we're united, when we're one economy, not 13, when we can cheer for different teams and still be on one team when it counts. When we come together, we build things that last because we are Canada strong. Vive la Canada! Merci tout le monde.
Mark Carney, the new Liberal leader and Prime Minister-designate, with an overwhelming victory on the first ballot of 85%, giving his first speech as Liberal leader and Prime Minister-designate, appealing to Canadians, attacking Pierre Poilievre, saying that he would not back down to Donald Trump, and compelling Canadians to pull together in this moment to get through this crisis. Just a landslide victory. Even Carney's camp did not expect that high a win. David Cochrane, your thought?
Well, on the results, just to speak to that, I think three candidates are very surprised with these numbers. Mark Carney, it's a good surprise. Chrystia Freeland, it's a shocking surprise. And for Karina Gould, I think that is a devastating number. There was a real belief inside her camp that she had a chance to come second here. She's barely ahead of Frank Baylis, which when you look at the praise and the response, her debate performances and her campaign got, at least in terms of communications, that's a disappointing result for her campaign.
I mean, I think that's a pretty devastating result for Chrystia Freeland.
Oh,
she can't even hit double digits. She was the Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister. It definitely speaks to her inability to disconnect or get away from Justin Trudeau.
Well, there was something you talked about earlier in the broadcast, Rosie, is that a lot of people in the Liberal Party were mad at Chrystia Freeland and blamed her for a lot of the problems that they face as a government. The challenges really started for the Trudeau Liberals after they won the 2021 election, after inflation started to spike as the long-tailed consequences of COVID became apparent. And she was the chief economic messenger for the government and was just utterly unable to meet the moment, right? She would rarely speak to the media about it. She would rarely weigh in on it in a way that resonated with people struggling to pay bills, and instead spoke about things in the way you'd expect Mark Carney to speak about things, in a macroeconomic comparative sense. And that was seen as a real limitation for the government and her political skills. No one doubts her loyalty, her intellect, her ability, her work ethic. That was all there, though people questioned her loyalty after December 16th with the way she quit. But to be the Deputy Prime Minister and hold all the major ministries in a government for as long as she did, and to get 8%, that's a rejection, and that's a serious defeat for her.
Let's go back to the winner at 85.9%. Mark Carney, Vandana, surprising to you, I think.
It was that definitely big a surprising. Win. I mean, even on this campaign, they were expecting more of a 70%, but this is like, you know, Paul Martin had over 90% and he had years to organize. This is 85% in a matter of weeks. And against three members of parliament, one former member of parliament, but able to build a organization across the country in many big cities. And that's something unprecedented that I've seen, but even beats Trudeau's numbers.
Yeah, what do you think, Chairman?
I think this is incredibly impressive. To pull off this, and also I'm quite surprised by how high this number is. To pull off this landslide victory for someone who's not within the party, who in a period of barely 2 months has built this nationwide massive fundraising. Like the fundraising is extremely impressive for the Liberals right now, as is the tens of thousands of people he's brought in. So I'm really impressed. I think it bodes really well for the party's chances at being competitive in the next election. His speech, I think, was pitch perfect in terms of the content. I mean, the messages he laid out were really strong, clear vision, contrast, talking about the only thing that's on people's minds right now, which is our sovereignty facing the United States. But, you know, the delivery was very serious and very...
Yeah, and you know, first of all, when we were talking as he was speaking, it is a vast improvement from his kickoff speech, I would say. He's much better at delivering a speech, but he is still just a new politician.
Yes.
But, I mean, you might argue that maybe serious is okay right now.
Maybe that's what people want.
I don't know.